This is relatively a short presentation. It's more of a general informational meeting about what the redistricting process is. But before I get started, I want to introduce a couple of folks here. We have city staff here in the back, Stephanie, and also our demographer, Andrew, in the back as well as council member Bob is here with us. We're here for the redistricting process, which takes place every 10 years after census data has been released. And like I said, this is the first of 4 public hearings, which will take place in the month of December and January. They're split into both months. But we'll go ahead and get started with this presentation. Like I said, it's just relatively short. My name is Hope Huerta. I'm one of the consultants working with Andrew. Yeah. So what is the redistricting process and why is it important? How and where districts are drawn can shape communities' ability to elect the representatives of their choice. Districts must be made as equal in population as practicable so that communities have equal access to political representation. Like I said, this takes place every 10 years after census data has been released based on population growth or any changes really in the population of the area. This is a general timeline of the redistricting process. We're here in this portion here. Like I mentioned, there will be 2 public workshops and hearings in the month of December. We have one today, and the next one will be on the 13th. The other 2 will be in the month of January, which will then move on to the pre-final map public hearings, and we'll be ending in March with the final map presentations, which will have 2 readings of. If one of those readings isn't necessary, we'll have a second reading for that. But like I said, this is a process that will lead us all the way to the month of March. So we'll go ahead and get started about how the redistricting process is sort of broken down and the legal criteria for that. One of those being the Equal Population Principle, the U.S. Constitution's Equal Protection Clause, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, along with some traditional redistricting criteria, which we'll go into now. So what are the traditional redistricting criteria? Contiguity, all parts of our district should connect, and there are 2, this isn't a laser pointer, huh? No, okay. There are 2 maps here on each side of the presentation here, one of them being the current district map and the other one just being the map of the city. When it's referring to contiguity, meaning all parts of the district should connect, that district shouldn't sort of split and there should be islands of it, so you should be able to travel within your own district without having to leave that district. Then we go into compactness. Districts should be geographically compact. As you can see, the city of Menifee is rather compact. It doesn't really spread too much, but it should be as compact as possible. Existing boundaries, meaning districts should utilize boundaries such as geographic streets, political boundaries, and conform to school attendance zones. As you can see here, the main sort of highway here sort of cuts through the city, and it does so as well through the district map here, meaning between District 1, 4, and 2, and 3. And the last part of this traditional redistricting criteria is communities of interest. Districts should preserve neighborhoods and communities of people sharing common interests. That part is why the public is here. Once the demographer creates a draft map, then we need the public's input based on the communities of interest, so we make sure that we have your input on that. At the end of the day, we're the consultants and the demographers were working to do all the technical part of this, but this community itself is the one that knows the community the best, so we need your input for that portion. So again, the current map of Menifee, we have here one on the screen, but also you have one here in front of you, and there are some copies in the back as well if you want to take one home. How can the public provide their input? There's several ways to doing this. One is attending a public workshop like we're doing today, and like I said, there's 4 of those in total. You can also submit a public comment form, which we have some physically in the back, or you can go to the city of Menifee.us redistricting website if you want to do it digitally. And then if you want to take a step further, you can also draw your own map using the online mapping tool, which Andrew will go into a little bit later. But at the end of the day, we want your input. So if the draft map comes out and there's something that doesn't resonate with you, something that doesn't represent you, you can go ahead and submit your own map in one of these forms as well. If you want to submit your comments or you want to draw the map by hand, you can also submit your draft maps to the city clerk's email here, which is smanwaring@cityofmenifee.us. So what kind of public input are we seeking from the community? What streets, boundaries, or points of interest define your community? Does your community have any major geographical boundaries? Is your community similar to other neighboring communities? And what are your shared interests? And we'll go a little bit into what shared interest means. So why is it important to protect communities of interest? To preserve communities that share common interests and should be included in a single district in order to have effective and fair representation, that is sort of the main portion of this. And what are some of these examples of common interests and shared interests? Housing pattern, common culture, language, public services, and point of interest. We want to make sure that everyone is being fairly represented when the new district map gets drawn. And that's sort of the main portion of this. Everyone should be fairly and equally represented. This is the workshop dates and times. Like I mentioned, there will be 4 public hearing and workshops. We are in the first one here at Sun City Library. The next one will be on December the 13th at Menifee Library. That's at 5 p.m. Then we'll move on to the month of January. We'll have one on the 12th and the 29th. Being at Casey Nettles Senior Center and Marion V. Ashley Community Center. So you have multiple opportunities. You don't have to live in that specific area to attend any of the meetings. Anyone can go to any meetings. It doesn't have to be respective to that district. This is the City of Menifee redistricting website, just so that you guys get more comfortable with it. As you can see here, we have the online mapping tool version here, and again, this is just prompting you if you wanted to participate or submit any comments using the city clerk's email there. This is your public input or the public comment form that I mentioned earlier. If you want to do it digitally, you can submit that as well here. The online mapping tool, which we'll go into now. Once you click away from the city's website, you'll be prompted with this online mapping tool site. At this point, you will make an account, and the account is free. You don't need to pay anything to do this. So once you made your account, you can defer to one of these 2 options here. You can either start with a completely blank map of the city, like the one we have here on the left, or you can go off the current district map, like the one we have here. So if you wanted to go ahead and draw your completely new map, or you wanted to base it off the old map, you can pick one of those 2 options there. And this is what the online mapping tool looks like using the previous district map. And again, we come to the end of the presentation. Like I mentioned, this is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. If you want to contact us, the point of this whole process is to have your input through the whole drafting process of the new map. You can do so by, if you want to, give us a call. This is the city clerk's phone number. Again, the website and redistricting options here at the cityofmenifee.us. And if you just want to go ahead and email your comments or your draft maps, you can do so using the city clerk's email at smanwaring@citymenifee.us. Nothing really happens in this sort of portion of the process until we sort of get a draft map going, right? That's when the public gets more involved, when they see what that's going to look like. But if you have any questions now, like I mentioned, we're here. The city staff is here as well, and our demographer in the back as well is here if you have any questions about this process.
Anybody have any questions? Oh my. Get time to run it through again for him.
Sure. No, I've already did my math. I'm ready to submit. I did a comment.
Did he submit the map directly in paper?
Yes, you can go ahead and give it to city staff.
I did a comment though. The app, when you go online, you have to do an email confirmation before you can actually get to the map.
Correct.
Well, the problem is my email went to my junk mail folder, and I didn't know. I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I finally checked and goes, oh, there it is, because it's like 20 minutes later. It's like, why haven't I got it? So I finally clicked the link and I got into the map. So if you haven't done it before, make sure you check your junk mail.
Yep. You do need an email to make an account. The account is free, but like the gentleman here mentioned, it might go to your spam, so make sure you go ahead and check that.
I just have a question, if you have some data
Sure.
on the percentage of populations in the old map.
Yeah. Andrew, a demographer here, can explain that more.
Just kind of how it fits there.
And we have some demographic profiles here in the back based on the new census information. So if you wanted to take that, he has one here for you.
You know, I did print out the quick facts from the United States Census for Menifee, and it's fascinating, just fascinating, the growth. Is it the same way there?
I did have a quick comment too.
Let me handle her and then I'll get to you.
Yeah, so
Yes, sir?
if you get to the maps, it'll answer your question because it actually breaks down the demographics by race for every block in the district, and it breaks it down by the color code too. So, you know, the white, Caucasian, Hispanic.
Right, I have all that,
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm just wondering, just in a nutshell, if you can tell me the voting, percentage of voters population in Menifee that currently fall in your block.
Yes, so in general, what you have is, and this probably isn't in those facts that you have in front of you. So in terms of the citizen voting age population, and that's what the courts really look at when they're dealing with the Federal Voting Rights Act and constitutional compliance. So in general, your Latino citizen voting age population citywide is 31.4%. White is 53.7%. Black is 7.1 or 7.0%. Asian is 5.5%, and then all other categories total to 2.4%.
Okay, my question, what percentage of the voting population, regardless of race, are currently in the new old District 1?
Oh, just in general?
Generally.
So and so in the current District 1, you have 15,381 people who are eligible to register to vote.
Okay.
And District 2 is 16,667.
Okay.
In District 3, it's 16,131. And then in District 4, it's 15,784. And so once again, that's yeah. So that's not who's actually registered to vote or who did vote, but people that are eligible to register to vote.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? So with that, why don't I take us through a quick demonstration of the online mapping tool, so that you can understand how it works. I know we have a gentleman here who's appeared to have played with it for a little bit, but I want to at least spend a little time showing you how it works. So I'm just going to come back here. Yeah.
Oh, your mouse was working.
It was?
Here we go.
Oh, okay, great. Even better. Let's see if the mouse will work from here.
Never mind.
Nope.
It's probably too
It's
far.
okay. So first we'll go to the city's website, as we talked about earlier. And the city's website can be accessed at cityofmenifee.us/redistricting. And as you can see, there's a longer URL at the top of the page, but you can access it from that particular website. Once again, cityofmenifee.us/redistricting. And as you can see on the webpage, if you scroll down, as Hope showed earlier, you can get to the online mapping tool, which is listed right here. And so when you click on that, it'll take you to the District Builder website, which has the online mapping tool that was talked about in the presentation. And so you have a couple different options here, once again, to draw a map from blank, from scratch, or to adjust the current city council districts. One of the things with the city Menifee is, particularly with the amount of growth that we've had over the last 10 years, that there will have to be changes to the districts. In terms of the overall population, they have to be within 10% of each other, and currently they're not. And so we do have to make some changes, and we will have some work to do. In terms of the online mapping tool, as you can see up there on the top right-hand part of the page, you can log in and register. And so the first thing that you want to do is click on the register button and put in your name and email and password. I already have an account, so let me put that in.
space up in your email address, sometimes if you have an extra space at the end, it puts something out there.
That would help, but usually I use my own laptop for this, and I have no idea what my password is. So I think that's my problem.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to get it by logging into Gmail either. It's a security feature.
All right, just give me a second here.
You want me to log in for you? You can use my laptop.
What's your password or you use it?
You create your own
Oh, you
password.
create it.
Yeah, you have to make one out. I just use my address.
So you create it.
Yeah, when you create the account, you put your email and your
So
password.
does the map that you play with here, does it, then when you change the border, does it move the eligible voting population automatically?
Yes, it'll move everything.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as I can get in, I'll be happy to show it to you.
So just can I ask a question here? If you move the 215 as a divider to the east, or I guess it's all to the east, isn't it? What kind of an impact does that have? Because that seems a bit of a natural.
Most of this is commercial. This section here.
Okay.
It's on the other side of the
But
freeway.
if there's any, I mean, this is a higher number than this, and the same thing here, this is.
Right, but if you move this line, so on road is this border here. Everything between on road and the freeway is commercial right now.
So you can increase that.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of housing there.
And then if you come up to here, there's Garbani, and then there's a couple of houses up here. But as far as population goes, this section here's got some houses in it, but for the most part, it wouldn't do very much. Like you could take from Rickard Road to here and move it to the freeway, and I don't think it would change it at all.
I got you, okay. Then what about this area here?
This is different here. This was cut out because there's been some development in here that wasn't there when they drew the original map. So if you move this over, that might even out
Okay.
pretty closely. This is the big section here,
Yeah, but-
where this is really heavily densely populated. But this one here, based on the development that's going on over here, I don't know if it's completed yet or not for the numbers, but if it is, it would even out pretty well. And you can see up here, the freeway already is kind of divided. But down here, it's just commercial. Because you can see between the freeway and on road at Newport, that's the Menifee town, Menifee, countryside marketplace.
Right.
That's all, there's no houses.
There we go. All right. So why don't we continue with the presentation here? So as we were showing out, once you register and you can log in, you get to the City of Menifee's homepage here once again. And so once again, you can choose to create an entirely new map or to go with the current districts. And why don't we start with an entirely new map so we can show you the functions of the mapping tool. So what you would do is click on the template here. And it's a lot of data, so sometimes it takes a second to load. Also depends on your internet capacity. And so here we have the City of Menifee, right? So the entire city with no council districts on it. You have the geography, and as you go in at a smaller level, you can get more and more roads, right, and streets that come up, so you can actually look at various areas of the city. Up in the top left-hand corner, you have your 4 districts, right? And your ideal population there should be 25,697 for each of the 4 districts. The city's population is 102,790. So what you want to do is you want to go through and you want to build 4 districts that are equalized in population. That's the primary purpose of redistricting, is to equalize the population so that each elected official has about the same number of residents in each of their districts. Up here you have the total population, so what you want to do is get this to 0, and you want to allocate that to the 4 districts. You also have breakdown of race, once again, that you can see as you're building each of these districts. Each one of the areas will give you ethnic data on each one of the block groups as well. And you have really had two choices to build maps. You have block groups, which are a larger piece of geography, or you can use census blocks. And census blocks are a smaller set of geography, as you can see here. So what I recommend is that you start with the census block groups, and then as you want to refine your map in different parts of the city, to go to the census blocks to get a better definition and make sure that you're keeping neighborhoods whole to the extent possible. So with that, why don't we begin drawing a map? You have 4 different tools to draw a map. You have a kind of a point and click here, which you can just point at certain geography, right? So something like this. And if you don't like it, you can just click on it again and it will take it off. The other way to do it is there's a cancel button up here, so you can hit cancel.
Can you click that again and tell me what the information is in the little box that pops up there then?
Oh, sure. So in terms of this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it just gives you a breakdown of the population of each block group, and then a breakdown percentage-wise of the ethnicity of that area. So once again, if you select that area, we're talking 2,410 people. And it'll show up over here, as you can see, as you're adding population. And so as you're going through and selecting different areas, you want to get to a point where you get to that 23,000 or that 25,000 number that we're looking for. As you can see, this block group is a little weird. It goes outside of the city and picks up a different portion of the city. So that's something that you'd want to clean up to make sure, once again, it's contiguous. As we talked about before, you want to have districts in which you can travel from every part of the district to another part of the district without leaving the district. And obviously, with this, you wouldn't be able to do that just yet. The other tools that you have available is you can draw a rectangle, right? So you can go, a different part of the city and just do something like that. You can also use a paintbrush, right, in which you can just kind of paint through different areas of the city as well, like that. And then you can always hit cancel up here in the top left corner. When you're working on a particular district, you want to make sure it's highlighted. So right now, District 1 is the first one that we're working on, and that's highlighted. But when you go to District 2, you want to make sure you change districts so that the population is being allocated to the right district that you're interested in. So why don't we start with District 1 here, and we'll start just by building a district through this part of town. So why don't we do something like this? And as you can see, once again, up in that left-hand corner, and I know it's not very visible on the screen, but it'll tell you, as you're adding up population, how much population you still need. So right here, this is about 9,500 people, and we still need to pick up a little over 16,000. So if we just keep drawing, right, we'll come back and see that block group there over there too is kind of weird because of the way that it cuts over into the top end of Quail Valley. So why don't we do something like that for now? We still need more population, so why don't we go here? And we're still trying to get to the right place. What you want to do is get to a place where there's a green check mark here, right? So we'll just keep doing that. Oh, there we go. So with this particular rendition of District 1, you have 25,498 people, and your deviation is minus 199 people. Once again, that green check will tell you if it's within where it needs to be, and you want to get green checks for all 4 of your districts. And so that's a good district, even though we have this contiguity issue up here that we'll fix as well. So why don't we accept that? And there's your first district. So why don't we go to our next district, District 2. And once again, you want to, on the left-hand side, you want to click on District 2 before you start working on it. And so then we'll go back through here and we'll see, we'll just start clicking on different areas and see if we can build a district that doesn't cross the freeway. Let's see what that gets us. Oh, there we go. And so all of that area, so this is kind of Quail Valley, and then south of the, is it Salt Creek, council member?
Newport.
Yeah, south of, yes. Well, Newport's, I think Newport's here, right? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so Newport Road. Yeah, so you got it, right? That's why you're the council member. So basically Newport Road here, you know, kind of coming across this other area, and then, you know, including Quail Valley up here on the west side of the city. As we talked about, that's another good district there. It meets our population criteria. It has 26,047 people, and it's over deviation by 350. So why don't we go ahead and accept that?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
As you're drawing these, can you actually go in where it has the F? If you highlight where the F is on the right side up there, does that show you the population breakdown by ethnic group?
Yeah, so
So-
underneath the race column here, if you go down to each one of these, it'll show you a breakdown of the ethnicity of each of the districts, right?
Okay, so these new groups you're drawing here, if there's a significant variation on the race population in one group versus another, could that be challenged in law, in court?
Well, it depends on the size of the population. So, you know, there are two kind of general rules when you're dealing with redistricting and the use of race. And one is the Federal Voting Rights Act, and the other one is the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution under the 14th Amendment. In terms of the Federal Voting Rights Act, if there is a concentration of population of an ethnic minority in the city that's large enough and cohesive enough that they not only can be a majority of a district, but also can be are politically effective. And what I mean by that is that they vote as a block, is that they vote as a group. And you also have history in the city of non-ethnic voters voting against their candidates of choice. Then you have an issue where you're dealing with the Federal Voting Rights Act, and you have a likely violation that you'd have to correct. That doesn't appear to be the case in the city of Menifee, but as we go through this process with the city council and the city clerk and city attorney's office, if we see anything that that causes us a concern in terms of litigation, we'll be sure to alert the council. But it doesn't, once again, it doesn't appear to me, having looked at this for some time over the last couple months, that there's an issue in the city of Menifee. There could be in 10 years, but it doesn't seem like there is today.
And it depends on how you draw the map too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, so what I understand basically is where that would come into play is if you had a certain ethnic group that had a block right now that they could control a vote, and you divided them up so that they basically were minimized in each of the districts, so they had no vote, basically. They were a minority in each of the districts, then that might be cause for concern. But especially if they currently have a large portion of one of the districts now. Sure,
that's absolutely right. And once again, what's important is that you not only have to have a majority of that ethnic minority population, but you also have to have a majority of that citizen voting age population that we talked about earlier. And then you can also look at ethnic registration data from the state of California for the city of Menifee, particularly from the 2020 general election. And so we look at all of those data points just to check and make sure there aren't any issues. It doesn't, as I said before, it doesn't seem to be the case that it can be done in the city of Menifee today, but perhaps in 10 years with a lot more growth that might be possible. So with that, why don't we continue with our demonstration here and finish off our districts. Once again, you want to go up here in the corner and click on the next district you want to work on, District 3, and then begin selecting block groups. All right. So with that, that area, which basically covers the Menifee Lakes area and kind of the area south of Mount San Jacinto College. All of that, once again, gets us to a complete district. It's 25,771 people, and just over the ideal by 74 people. And so we have another good district there, and we want to accept that. Then we'll finish off with District 4 here, and then I'll show you how you can do some evaluation to make sure that you're hitting all the legal marks that need to be hit in terms of this process. So once again, we'll start with District 4. And we'll just select the rest of the areas of the city that we haven't selected. All right, and so those other areas up there in the north, once again, we have our green check here, right? So we have our population equality.
And what are the little steps, the little green steps? How'd that happen?
In terms of,
Like the car,
The separation in the District 1. It's a census block, so
Yeah.
that's why this is separated.
so this area right here,
no, up on the,
Oh.
there, right there.
The-
Between those steps. coming down.
oh, the green area up on the top?
This right here.
Yes, so, and I'll show you how to clean that up here in just a second. But what that is it's a census block group. And so, in general, the census did a really bad job of not only of the count, but also the geography of the census this time. I think the count in Menifee was actually pretty decent, but they didn't spend a whole lot of time really working on the geography. And so what you have is you have a block group there that's split between two sides of the city of Menifee. And I think that's the city of Paris that comes down right in there. And so it actually goes into both jurisdictions. But as I said, we can go to a smaller level of geography on census blocks, and we'll clean that up and make sure we still meet all our marks. So once again, we have a District 4 here with 25,474 people and a deviation of minus 223, and we have our green check mark. So why don't we go ahead and accept that? There we go. So we know we have a couple of contiguity issues here, but why don't I show you how you can check that on your own, and then I'll come back and clean that up for us. So up here in the top corner, there's a button up here that says Evaluate. And when you click on that button, it gives you a variety of different issues here. So the first one is equal population, right? Once again, that's the most important thing that we do in terms of redistricting, is trying to equalize population. And so we have all 4 districts that have equal population. We also talked about contiguity, which is also one of the major requirements here. And we only have 2 districts that are contiguous at this point, Districts 4 and 3, because we have this little issue right here with District 2 and District 1, and then another issue up here with District 1 and District 4. So we'll come back and fix that. Competitiveness is not something that you'll get from this website. In the state of California, it is against state law to use partisanship data, so Democrat, Republican, independents, minor parties, that sort of thing. And so that information is not available to you. Compactness is can be relatively arbitrary requirement. It's an important requirement, but it also always depends on the geography of the city, the geography of neighborhoods and natural boundaries. And so these are actually very compact districts for the city of Menifee. And even though the compactness score over here is 42%. So I wouldn't really worry about this one too much, but it is another factor that we take into consideration. You also have, you can look at majority minority districts. And so in this rendition it's 3 out of 4, and you can always, once again, you can click on these things and it'll show you which districts are contiguous, excuse me, and which districts aren't. And so as we go back to this, it'll show you that you have this area, District 1, is majority white district, and then the other districts are there are no majority groups in any of these districts. And once again, you can go up here and look at the demographics. There we go. So in District 1, it's under this scenario, it's 53% white, 33% Latino. You come down to the next one here, our District 2, which is the one in the southwest end of the city, 41% white and 42% Latino. Over here we have District 3, 45% white and 33% Latino. And then up here, up again in District 4, 37% white and 43% Latino. And so you can look at these issues as well. And this is a simplistic way to check for Voting Rights Act issues, but it does help the user kind of understand what they're doing. I also wouldn't worry about the block group splits here. Once again, we're going to start to split block groups in just a second because of the contiguity issue that we have. But there's another area that you can check there as well. So with that,
The menu you have over here on the left right now, did you get there by just clicking up in the top left corner, that little triangle?
so yeah, so up here where it says evaluate, up here in the right corner, you just hit that evaluate button,
Oh, okay, all right.
and it'll take you to all of these issues here. Yep.
And is there any concern about of those percentages which are eligible to vote? I mean, if it's a higher percentage in one than another, is that a problem?
Once again, I don't believe there is. In the city of Menifee, you do have a substantial Latino population citywide, but it's relatively spread out. As you could just see from the numbers we were looking at, the vast majority of the Latino population is up here in this area of the city, and then down in this area of the city, particularly kind of in the Quay Valley area. And so, as I was alluding to earlier, I don't believe there's an issue today in the city of Menifee, but there could be in 10 years from now with the population growth that's going on in the city. And so it doesn't appear that you can draw a majority Latino district today that would meet all the requirements of the Voting Rights Act, but it does get close.
I'm not thinking about the city of Riverside issue, I'm thinking about the green, District 1.
Oh,
I
it's,
would imagine has fewer houses with children as being counted in the census than other areas.
oh yes, certainly.
Does that concern you? If
Yeah.
that came up as more eligible voters in District 1 than,
No, because we have to do redistricting based on population, and so
population, not voter.
just straight population.
Okay,
So
great.
while we look at those voter statistics and they help inform the work, the numbers are strictly based on population. And so no, because because we have those green checks over here on the corner, over in the top left, that shows us that we have population equality, that we're in good shape at least for that particular criteria. And as I said, we do have to deal with some contiguity issues, so why don't we do that quickly? So as I said before, when you want to go to a smaller level of geography to work with, you can go to census blocks, right? And as you can see, there's a lot more opportunities for change. And we'll have to clean this area up right here. So once again, you want to go to, make sure you're clicked on the right district here, so you don't add it to the wrong district. So we click on District 4, and we just go through, clean some of this stuff up. There we go. And you can always go back here and look at the evaluate button, right? And once again, now we have 3 contiguous districts. We still have an issue with District 2, but the rest of them are contiguous now. Whoops. So as we can see here, this is where our other contiguity issue is here. So we want to put it in our green district, into District 1. So we click on District 1, and we add that small area to District 1. And hit accept. Whoops. Oh, looks like we have some very small areas there as well. There we go. All right. So now, once again, we go back to the evaluate button. District 2 still not contiguous. Huh. Let's see what's going on here. Looks like,
That little area right there.
yeah, it looks like we missed a couple areas here. So why don't we go to our District 2? Well, it's coming up right on the map, and it's coming up right with the data, but there's some internal issue. Well, we'll make sure we talk to the vendor and take care of that in the next couple of days. I'm not sure what's going on right there. But with that, whoops. Once again, we have 4 contiguous districts. They meet the equal population criteria. They do meet the contiguity area, except for our little anomaly there with our computer program. And once again, you can go up here and look at the statistics of each one. You can go down into lower levels of geography and see where the best way to, to change some of these things. So like this right here, this little census block is a little weird. Sometimes, once again, you have weird census geography that creates certain anomalies like this. And so this census block actually goes from Salt Creek Channel all the way up kind of to the other side here, not even through the mountain. And so it's just kind of one of those strange things. You'll find that in different places of the city. So that's what a new map would look like.
What are any cons on that? I mean, looks like a pretty good plan. Lots of pros about it, but are there any issues with the councilman? Concerns there?
I don't feel like, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what would happen. So there's that one little triangle at the bottom of District 1. That's an odd cutout as well.
And it's not current, well, I guess if you want.
It's currently District 2.
Yeah.
And that's Berea, and Salt Creek comes down behind it there between District 1 and the houses. So that black line at the bottom is Newport, and that triangle is this weird little cutout that I don't know if you square it off right there, if that changes the.
Show me where that falls, where that is here, right here, and then this is.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay.
So this line right here is the edge of it.
Okay.
So this was a cutout previously that's been corrected by this map.
Okay.
And if you just square it off on Newport.
Yeah, so the issue there, Councilmember, and we can certainly do that. It works for District 1, but District 2 would still have to pick up 1,000 people somewhere.
Right, and that's the reason there's that cutout, because of the population density. So,
Yeah.
But it still makes sense, and that the other big cutout is reapplied to District 1. So, I mean, all of it just makes sense.
It does make sense,
Yeah,
yeah.
the nice thing about the city of Menifee is it's compact, it's fairly square, and so it's not difficult to draw good districts if you know the geography and then really pay attention to the certain areas that the council member that was just talking about right here. We've also got the Menifee Lakes area. So I think at least in this rendition, I think the golf course and some of the homes are still split from the rest of that area. But then you're kind of up against the hill here, and you have population that kind of surrounds the hill on both sides, on the east side and the north side. Yeah, I mean, well, as you can see, I mean, you can play around with this as much as you want at home, but particularly with the 215 freeway being a major divider, it's hard to draw districts kind of east-west, as I'll call it, because you have so much population density in Sun City, right, and just on the other side of the freeway right here. And then when you get down here really into the southern part of the city, there's really no population, right? At least not today, very little.
Sorry, Andrew, do you mind can we go through, because I think one of the gentlemen had an issue with saving and sending the map in?
Oh, sure.
He was able to print it, but he couldn't send it in electronically.
Sure. No, it's a great question. So up here you have this export button up in the top corner here. And what you can do is hit that button and you will export it to different GIS geography. And so there's a shape file, a comma limited file, or what's called a GeoJSON file. And you can choose any one of these options to export it out and send to the city clerk's office. And what we'd do at that point is we'd produce a map available to the public and the council in terms of what you submitted. The other thing I would say is that anyone who's working on this, and there's currently 12 people that are actually using this website, including myself, anyone who's working on a map that has a completed map will take a look at as well, because we do have the ability to do that. And at this point, what I would say is try to get any maps or public comment or any information you have in to us by the middle of January. We have to go back to council first week of February with a draft map, and that has to be produced and available on the city's website 7 days in advance. And so really by the end of January, we'll have the draft map completed, and then have that available for public comment as well, and then take in more comment at that time. But if you want to have comment that will help inform the draft map, it's really the next month and a half or so in which you want to get those comments in.
So once you export it to one of those files, it just basically saves it on your computer in that format, correct?
Yes, and so what you want to do is, right, and so I just downloaded that file here for me onto this computer, and then what you want to do is you want to send this file to the city clerk's office.
So you have to basically attach it in an email that's addressed to the city clerk?
Correct.
So if you just click on it there, it doesn't automatically fill that in for you. It'll let you just, there's not an option just to say send me an email and automatically pre-fill in the address to the city clerk. You have to actually bring that up and type it yourself.
Correct. And as I said before, we will go through and check all the people that are using the website, but around the third week of January. And so if there's other maps that people have available there, we'll be sure to submit those to the clerk and the council as well. Any other questions on the online mapping tool? It's pretty easy to use once you know. It's like most computer programs. Once you know where the buttons are, it's pretty easy to use. So with that, if there aren't any other questions, I guess we'll wrap up the presentation at this time. I'll turn it back over to the city clerk's office to close this out.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for coming out. The city, we really appreciate everyone's input in this and the questions. So if you have any more, again, we have 3 more of these coming up, and you're always welcome to join the city council meetings in February and March. Well, anytime, but in February and March for the redistricting. And those are at Wednesday at 6 p.m. And the city's website has the other dates located around the city for more of these type of input hearings. So thank you all, and we'll see you the next time.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Are there areas of this current districting that have a lot of residential that isn't developed yet that can be taken into consideration? So when you're doing your deviation, if you put like an extra 500 or 600 in one area, or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden they got this big boom of residentials going in, now they're going to be off by 1,000. So, I mean, you can't, at least you could take that in consideration that there's a good possibility they're going to really increase their occupancy in that area. You might want to make sure that they're not already starting high.
Sure, no, that's a great question. In general, yes, the council, it's a policy decision of the council, but they can take into consideration that growth. Once again, the map has to be based on the actual census data that was taken last year. And so you don't have, you're talking maybe 600-700 people. You don't have a lot of an ability to make those adjustments, but certainly if it made sense to the council, they could.
Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everybody.